Thank you, Jonathan. It's very difficult, very hard to start again after such a song. We'll try. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this second session. In the first session, we heard testimonies, we heard about the situation. In this second session, we will hear more about strategies. We will hear about the different ways to react and to promote a peaceful future for Palestinians and Israelis. We are very happy to have here with us today representatives from 4 really outstanding organizations promoting peace and justice in very different ways. To my right, Raida Aiashe. She's a history teacher in the village of Wahat As-Salam, Neve Shalom, which was founded as a common Jewish-Palestinian village between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem in the 1970s. Oasis of Peace, which is the English translation, aims mainly to promote peace, equality, and understanding via the means of education. I guess. Yeah. Then here, Nisreen Shehada. She's an engineer by profession, and she's one of the leading members of Standing Together, founded just recently in 2015. Yeah. 2015, a grassroots movement of Jewish and Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel who insist on the interconnection between social questions and the peace process, arguing that peace comes from social change. Yeah. Then here to my left, Huda Abu Arqub. She's member of Women Wage Peace, founded in 2014. It's a very active and very strong organization of women, both Jewish and Arab, secular and religious, but political, non-partisan. We will come back to this. Women Wage Peace insists not only on political agreement, but also on including women in all parts of decision-making. So that's another strategy. And the last one, Eitan Bronstein. He's co-director of Decolonizer, which is an alternative research and art lab, a laboratory. Decolonizer has extensively worked on the perception of the Nakba by the Israeli population. It produces events, videos, performances, does researches on the history of villages, and offers alternative tours throughout Israel. Yeah. So there's another strategy, more cultural, art, maybe activism, guerrilla activism. My name is Jürgen Stolt. I'm one of the editors of a political cultural magazine here in Luxembourg, which is called Forum. We serve a bit as a discussion platform for civil society here in Luxembourg. Right. So I would invite our guests here to present a bit their approach and also their vision for the future. And after each presentation, I would ask the others to react on that, to question this approach. And so that would give each of us about 20 minutes to explain their strategies. And afterwards, we would come back to you, the public, to have a feedback, and you could react on that.
Yeah, so I just have a technical topic. There is some interferences that are disturbing the translation. So if you can put your phone on flight mode, it might help, because it's really going in and out, and it should help according to our translators. Thank you.
Okay. So we have 4 strategies here. We will discuss them. We will come back to some of the questions we already discussed in the first session. I would suggest we start with you, Raida. Oasis of Peace, it's a village. You're working as a teacher. Mm-hmm. Your approach is education. Since 1970, where are you today?
1970, I was still a young pupil. So I attended the village when I was a teenager. I went to the village, I discovered the village when I was a teenager via a project of meeting between high school pupils from Arab villages and cities with their colleagues from Jewish villages. Until that age, actually, until 1984, I haven't met a Jew face to face, to talk, to interact, Jew for me was only maybe the bus driver, the policeman, the soldier, the doctor. But even being a resident of Nazareth, I didn't need a doctor to be a Jew. We had everything in Nazareth. We have, and until now, it is still, in the Arab villages and cities that Arabs study by themselves. We have our own schools, our own curriculum, our own teachers, everything is in Arabic. And we face Hebrew usually when we go to university. That's the first time we had to. I was in the 6th grade when the art teacher, the music teacher, made a group of boys and girls, and she was trying to teach us the song for Independence Day. And the song says that it's not day, it's even a feast, independent feast. Being myself a refugee in my own country, I refused. And I said, I'm not gonna sing, I'm not gonna celebrate it, because I think I was lucky being my father's daughter, that he taught me a lot of things. He raised me politically, I think, perfect. So I said no, and the teacher was very upset because she's a friend of my father. How dare you say no? And I told my classmates, please don't. We're not singing. It's not our holiday. It doesn't have to do anything with us. We are Palestinians. We are Arabs. So she was very angry. She called the principal of the school. I was very afraid. I jumped over the roof of the kindergarten and wouldn't go down until my father came to take me down. And I became an activist as a teenager, as a student at university, and suddenly I became a mother. I didn't want this to happen to my kids. I think a lot of things change when we become parents. As a parent, I wanted something good for my kids. I wanted a safe life for them, and I wanted a good education for them. I wanted them to be aware of who they are. And that was the minute when I decided, after hearing and participating in the workshops of the School for Peace and the Oasis of Peace, that this is where I need to raise my children. And I applied also to teach in the school there in order to make awareness not only for my biological kids, but also for other pupils, other kids, Arabs and Jews, because everybody has to learn history, our history, the history of my land, of my homeland. And that was actually when I decided. Luckily, I had a partner who agreed to this, and we took our 2 kids, they were infants, and we went to live there. I want to talk about the thing that we do at school, actually. Right? What we do at school is We don't teach history with a book. There is no history book that teaches about Palestine or Palestinian history that is approved, because we belong to the Ministry of Education of Israel, so everything should be approved by the ministry. I also teach English, for example, and as an English teacher, I have plenty of books that I just need to, choose which book I like, and all are approved. But when it comes to history, you don't have this. So we have to invent the wheel, and this is what we did in our school concerning the Palestinian history, the Palestinian culture, the Palestinian traditions, even the Arabic language, even the art, even the songs, anything that has to do with my history. We had to sit together as a staff and think and decide what to choose, what to do, and how to do it. In order to teach that in our school, by the way, is a bilingual, binational school. This is how it is defined. And also the village I live in is defined the same, binational, bilingual. This means that everybody who comes to this village in order to live or to attend school, to work, or to study is equal to anybody else. So I feel equal there. And this equality of being me, the Palestinian Raida, without having to fake my identity or to hide it or to be hypocrite, as we actually sometimes do outside, because even though we are in the 21st century, and even though I have the Israeli passport and the Israeli identity card, but I am still a Palestinian. I am an Arab. I look like an Arab. My color is an Arab. My accent, even when I speak Hebrew, is an Arab. Immediately they feel it. When I walk at the airport, at any place, you come, and I have to be checked and investigated. So I cannot run away from my looking, from my skin, from my accent. This, we wanted to give a better life to our kids, to the new generations to come. And a better life comes also with awareness, with knowing who you are. And to be ignorant is not a solution, wouldn't lead us to anywhere. So we sit together, we feel like equal, we practice equality, we practice righteous, I am right, I have a right case. When I was a teenager, I was very angry at my ancestors. Like, it's because of them we lost our country. Because of them, I became a refugee. Slowly, I think as becoming more matured, I tend to forgive them. I forgive my grandfather, and I love him. I wanted him to know that, but I didn't have the opportunity to tell him so, because until the last day, I was really angry. But learning, knowing, studying is very important. The minute I discovered that I am a Palestinian, I was still really young. I was in the 3rd grade in elementary school, and I had to study Hebrew language, but I discovered in March that I am a Palestinian and I'm a refugee myself. So I decided to boycott the language, the Hebrew language. I don't want to study Hebrew. That's why I studied even English at university, so that I don't need to deal with Hebrew. But I discovered that this was wrong. In order to be strong, knowledge is the key. I needed to know. I needed to learn the history. If I consider him my enemies, then it's a must to learn the language, to learn the history, to learn the tradition, the culture, everything. It's a whole group of something, and the same the other side has to do. So
So you have common history classes? You have a common history course?
At school, it's not only history. As I said, it's also history, culture, and tradition. And also religion. We also teach the religion of each other. Needless to speak about the language. The language is a must from nursery. our school has also a nursery from 3 months on, and we have two figures in the elderly figures in each age, and each speaks her own language, so that the babies can see the model that there are two languages and there are two people. Each one speaks a different language. Maybe they wouldn't tell that it's different. They don't know the word different by that time, but they know that whatever language they speak, it will find an ear listening to it. And every child can express himself in his own language, because expressing myself in my language is very important to convey any message I wanted to. That's why we have also in the school, in the history class, two teachers. I cannot go to a history class by myself. It has to be me with my Jewish colleague. I speak in Arabic, she speaks in Hebrew, or I speak also in Hebrew, she can speak in Arabic if she can. But we are a model. We are the role model for all the children in the class, Arabs and Jews, Palestinians and Israelis, that we know the language of each other, we know the history of each other, we know the culture of each other, we know the religion of each other, and this is how it should be. We should know, we should learn, we should be aware. Otherwise, even because I had a girl in my class, a pupil saying, I don't want to learn Hebrew. I don't like it. It's for the enemy. And I had a Jewish child saying, what do we need Arabic for? Everybody around us wants us dead. So why should I learn your language? You're the enemy. So we have the same answer for both of them.
Even in your village, it's called the enemy?
Yeah, because I think I didn't say that. It's only 10% of our school population are from our village. All the rest, about 90% of our children, come from the surrounding areas, villages and towns, Arabs and Jews. So everybody has a certain background at home. They weren't raised from nursery in our school. And along the way, we still get newcomers, let's call them. They join us through the way, so they don't know much.
So how to be a member of this community? How can one apply to live in this village? Is it open for everybody?
Basically speaking, theoretically speaking, it is open for the people who live inside Israel, whether they are Palestinian Arabs or Jews. Nobody is allowed in, for example, from the West Bank, because we got calls from people saying, don't take people from, because, of the struggle, of the conflict and the different explanations, excuses. So I don't argue with that. I should respect their ideas. But the procedure is that people apply. There's an application form. They apply. They meet a little committee members, and they pass a process of workshop to see. The only condition actually is to see if both sides, if the applicant is able to live in our village. Able to live in our village means that he can cope with living with the other, with respect and with dignity. Living together doesn't mean that I have to put my identity aside or to give up my identity. I see it more than, it's more crystallizing our identities. I think I became, along the way, even more Palestinian than I was before getting in. And that's great.
Maybe a last question before I give the word to your colleagues. How many of these schools exist in Israel? How many of these villages exist? Are you a role model for others?
I'll start from the second one. Villages, no, we are the only one. And that is because we didn't rely on the country, on the ministry or in the government in order to establish ourselves. We were given a present. Can I say a big or small hill? It's a hill.
Beautiful.
A very beautiful one was dedicated to us from the Latrun Monastery. Latrun Monastery is our closest neighbor. Even the village is not religious, but our best friends are those priests from the Latrun Monastery who gave us this beautiful hill, the piece of land, in order to establish this dream of. So we're not relying on the government. Even we cannot extend because of that. Nobody is helping us to do so. So there aren't any villages or cities inside Israel that's following our steps. Though we have cities, big cities like Haifa, Akko, and Jaffa, Ramli, Lud, but they are not, they were before Palestine mostly. So in Palestine, I mean, before Israel, not new ones. Concerning the school, yes, after our school, about 20 years later, there was a new organization called Hand in Hand, and they tried to open bilingual schools in different places, but they are only called bilingual and not binational like us.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to start?
I'm sorry, guys, I feel like we're losing you, so let's wake you up. My name is Huda Arqub, and I'm from Dura, Hebron. Yay, very, 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 very beautiful town. It's not just about victimhood. And I'm here today to also have some conversation with my colleagues here, and it would be interesting if you can do popcorn. Join in. It's a very intimate setting, and we don't want to lose you because we don't get so many chances to meet with you. Two warnings before we start. First of all, I, as a Palestinian who live in the West Bank and have to go through all kinds of security checking, I cannot in any way or form or shape endorse the word that starts with B, okay? Because you guys, I have a travel document, and I'm very proud of it, because I can get visas to the whole world, except for the Arab world on it. So that's one mythology that we need to change here, that the Palestinians are not all hosted by the Arabs and they love us. They actually hate us. And the second warning, we're women, so please try and direct questions towards us. I know Eitan is so powerful, but he also is also a very good friend and a feminist, so he would welcome questions for women. So this is going to be also a little bit revolutionary in a sense that it's not going to be like, you know, first of all, this setting is not intimate, so I would prefer a circle, but let's go play with it. And second of all, it is time for us to stop dwelling on the pessimistic analysis about Israel and Palestine. And I want you to leave the room thinking that the Palestinians are the long-standing, resilient human beings. You would write books about how they can survive what's happening in Palestine and in Israel and still have hope. It's not taken for granted to think that we, the Palestinians, still can laugh. You know, we can have crazy weddings. We have great food, but also very, very resilient. The biggest achievement for us was,
May I ask you, you want to have questions, so I have a question for you.
Yeah, but let me finish the last one. I'm going to resist that. The biggest achievement of the Palestinians is Sumud. Yes, there was systematic assassination of our historic identity, but guess what? We're still here.
There,
Thank
you
you.
mean. There.
So, خليكم معنا. Let's stay together.
That was a strong start. What role does education play in this resilience?
the Palestinians are the ones who would respond to you that in 1948, because there was this systematic assassination of the Palestinian identity as cultured, educated, modern human beings who have created educational systems all over the Arab world, that the first response to the Nakba was education, education, education. So we firmly believe in education. Now the question is what kind of education that we want to debate or have a conversation over.
Nisreen, what would your reaction be on this model, on this experiment?
I think that education is one of any people's first escapes from control and from the attempt to break them down. And I think that the Israeli government is very afraid of the Palestinian education, even of its own Palestinian citizens, because there's about 17% of the Israeli population that are Palestinian nationals, just like myself. We live inside the borders of Israel. We have identification cards and passports, but our Palestinian identity is an innate part of who we are. And that is the one thing that the Israeli government is trying to chip at. They're trying to hide that. They're trying to turn us against each other. They're trying to redefine us, but we will not let that happen. Very simple examples from the last couple of months. There was in Haifa, that's my hometown, that's where I live today. There is a book expose. Some young Palestinian women brought books from all across the world to sell in a small bar downtown. It was very lovely. They also ordered books in Arabic from various countries. Obviously, they had to come through Beirut and other Arabic countries. And they were held at the border. The soldiers did not let the books in. And they would not let the books in. There are still many, many thousands of books waiting at the Israeli border, not being let in, because there are almost no books in Arabic allowed into Israel, because of the fear of this Palestinian identity. But we will not give up, and the fight is going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eitan, what do you think about binational education? Is that a way to do it?
Yeah, of course. I think it's interesting for me experience here in Luxembourg to hear about your multilinguality, that it's so normal for you. In our situation, it's completely different. As Raida described, we as Israelis refer or feel about Arabic as the language. Even we just hear it, it's kind of threat in the space, you know. Like in buses, and when someone speaks loud in Arabic, some Israelis are being afraid and sometimes even comment to that. So for us, bilinguality or multinational education can serve as a very important strategy to change for people. But there is something that I would like to ask Raida, if I may. From your description, you portrayed a situation or reality in your school that it's quite equal and balanced. And I have to tell also that we are friends and we know each other from Neve Shalom Wahat Salam. We had some experience there together some 20 years ago. I don't know. No, only 5 years ago. And we know very well that even though within the groups and the school, we try very hard to make it kind of balanced situation, reality, in fact, the reality from outside enters inside the room and influence a lot the situation, even within the small groups of the classes. And I would love to hear from you a little bit about this. How, in spite of your efforts, of course, and how you describe the model, how still the reality affects the inside the situation in the class, in terms of power relations, of course, between Israelis and Palestinians.
Let's not forget that we are talking about kids, and they have, again, their role model is their teachers speaking both languages, or speaking language that the one in front of you can understand. Conveying your messages, expressing your ideas makes you strong. When you have a child that he cannot or she cannot speak up or answer back or understand what you're saying, that will make him feel weak. So in order to be strong, again, you have to know. I am really clinging on this. Knowledge and awareness are really important for me as a teacher towards my kids. I like to give them empowerment. If I see a kid who is afraid or shy or, putting himself aside, I can't stand it. Immediately I think, how can I empower him or her in order to be strong enough to feel, to arise her or his self-esteem so that he can be himself, express himself, for the good and the bad, I don't know. It's basically to start to speak up. And this is important for me. Now, not everybody is alike. Not everybody is the same. We people are different, and we have different personalities, and we are also aware of that. But I am conveying the message that, in my eyes, as your teacher, you are all equal. I don't blame anybody for anything. Talking to the kids. But let's try together, develop, improve, do something, express ourselves. So this is what I think that, and this is what I think that I should do, and I am doing, empowerment for the children so that they can survive, actually. And to be honest, even empowerment, even more for the Palestinian ones inside the school. It's very important for me that they feel safe, they feel strong, they feel in control, not controlled. Now, it's not a secret that since the last 5 years, we belong to the Ministry of Education. And it's a threat even for me as an adult, okay? Because there are rules, you have to play according to the rules of their game. But in my classroom, I feel like I'm the queen of the class, and I have independence inside, and this I convey to the kids.
Thank you. Okay, Nisreen, standing together, explain us what their approach is.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Nisreen. I'm from Haifa. I'm here representing the organization I'm a part of, which is Standing Together. First, before I start, I'd like to thank Martin and the committee for having me, for having us and having this very important discussion. I'd like to thank you all. Raise my voice. I'd like to thank you all for for being here. Okay, so Standing Together is... Yes, I'm going to slow down, I promise. I'll try. I speak very quickly, usually. I'm going to make a special effort to slow down. Slow me down if I'm, again, talking too fast.
Yeah. Okay. You have to be a teacher to speak slowly.
Oh, yeah. I do everything fast in my life. I'm always this up and going, so also when I speak, but okay. So Standing Together is a grassroots movement that started in 2015 that believes in 3 very simple things that we believe are all actually the same thing, looking at it from different ways. The one is peace and end of the occupation. The second is equality for all residents. And the third is social justice, which we believe is a part of the same struggle for a just and equal society where we can all live in. The movement is based inside of the borders of Israel. It's based on 4 very simple principles. The first, it's a joint Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel movement. Just to be short, I'm going to exchange Palestinian citizens of Israel for Arabs. Forgive me, it's difficult for me to say it like that, I know, but otherwise we'll stay here for the end of the night. So it's a joint Jewish-Arab movement that aims to break the divide and conquer strategy the government is using. Today, for Palestinian citizens of Israel, there is a separate educational system, a separate political parties that we vote for, even a separate legal system. For example, I'm here today. It's very difficult for me to be here because there's my hometown and my homeland is in turmoil. There have been demonstrations from Thursday till today in each and every town of hundreds and tens of thousands of people demonstrating against the control of organized crime and crime families have over us. There have been 74 people killed since the beginning of this year, 15 of them in the last month. The police and the government are doing nothing about it. We are held hostage in the hands of criminals, and the government and the police do absolutely nothing about it. If it was any other country where a subpart of your citizens are under such an attack and you lose 70 people in 1 year, something would have been done. But in our case, it's just being ignored. So we are demanding the police and the government to take action. So this is one example of the division. The government uses this division to control us, to subsidize us, to pit us against each other, to make us think that for one of us to win, the other has to lose. They're trying to convince the Mizrahi Jews, the Jews that came from Arabic countries, that the Palestinian citizens are their enemies, that we have to work against each other. But we have different examples, and if I have time, I'll go into them later, of how we can work together against the government that is attacking both of us. So that's one, the divide and conquer. The second one is the fight for peace and the end of the occupation. It's a very important innate side of our movement. We work together with Combatants for Peace on peace marches happening on the borders of both Palestinian and Israelis, marching together at the same time, demanding to break down the wall and to achieve peace. We also work together with all the peace organizations, other peace organizations in the country, to protest any attack against Gaza or the West Bank that has happened in the past few years. Again, we've only been around since 2015. There's not many of them, but again, we have taken the streets many times. And most importantly, we're trying to make the Jewish citizens of Israel realize that this occupation is not in their interest. We're changing the talk between something that is amoral, which it is, there's no doubt about it, to something that causes the Jewish citizens of Israel to lose. 17% of the Israeli budget in 2016 went into the settlements. It does not make any sense, even looking at it from a Jewish Israelis point of view, to have these small villages in the middle of pretty much nowhere, each one of them living in this big, fancy house with armed forces, with the army, playing as their personal bodyguards, while everybody else, these are 5% of the population, even if we count them in the population of the country of Israel, the other 95% that live inside of Israel don't have that privilege. Most of them don't even have a roof over their heads, and they need public housing or things like that. The health system in the north of the country is pretty much non-existent. People have to drive 1 to 2 hours to get to an ER or a hospital, and all of this while hundreds and thousands, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars are going into maintaining the occupation, maintaining the settlements, and maintaining the military control of Israel over the Palestinian people. And that just does not make any sense. So that's number 2. Number 3, we're very passionate about this, obviously. Number 3 is we're a movement of the people. We are a grassroots movement that works with people everywhere. We are not a specialized organization like the NGOs that do amazing work, but you have to be a lawyer or somebody that specializes in your field of work. We have I'm an engineer, for example. We have all sorts of people working with us, including students, including waiters, bartenders, anything. Everyone can be a part of this movement and take part of it. Just like many right-wing movements does, for example, where they take the people, workers and marginalized groups, and try to convince them that who they need to attack are the peoples that are actually below them, the immigrants, the minorities, the refugees. The right-wing grassroots movement work in let's blame the weaker for our problems. We're trying to attack that. We're trying to bring a different point of view, to say no. The weaker is not your issue. It's not possible for the Palestinian citizen to be a threat on somebody that is a bit more powerful than them. The real threat, the real issue are the people that have all the money, the ultra-rich people, the settlers, the people that are enjoying and benefiting from the current political situation, which are very, very, very small. We, the people, as we say, and we are defying what we, the people, mean. We, the people, are the majority that are losing from this current political situation. The occupation is killing us all, both Palestinian and Jewish, in the historic Palestine region. The only people benefiting from it are the ultra-rich, the settlers, the arm manufacturers, and the people that are selling us all for their own financial and political gain. Fourth and last, I'm almost done, is we're a socialist movement. And that's a very important part of what we believe in. Today, even if we're looking at Israel and the 67 borders, we'll leave the discussion of whether those are or not the borders later. Marginalized groups are suffering. Almost half of the people with disabilities live below the poverty line. The majority of elderly citizens live below the poverty line. They have to choose whether they buy medicine or they buy food at the end of the month. Many, many people, as I said, don't have accessible health care. So all of that needs to be attacked in order for us to improve the lives of people. And obviously, the first to be harmed by all of these phenomena are the Palestinian citizens of Israel. After that, for us, for the Palestinians, there has not been a new village or a new town built in the last 70 years since the country was declared. So all of that deserves the attention and the money that we deserve, instead of it going to maintaining this unspeakable situation that we're having here. So this is what we believe in. We are just getting started. We have a lot of work to do. Things are not easy, but we're optimistic. We have had some success. But still, as I said, the road is long. We need your support and your solidarity to continue our work. We like to say, and that's our motto, I know it's a bit cliche, but go with me, where there is struggle, there is hope. We're maintaining the struggle so the hope does not die. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we understand well, you're trying to reframe the conflict?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So the social cleavages, the common interests are more important than this national conflict?
Yes, because today...
Is on top of that?
It's not exactly on top of that. It's what we're telling the people. The government is lying to you. They're making you believe that this occupation is necessary to maintain security. But that's a lie. That's not true. Security is not only security of borders, it's only security of the body. You need health care, you need to live, you need to eat, you need to study and to be educated as part of your own security. And the money going into maintaining the occupation is not going into maintaining any security, but to maintain a privileged lives of the settlers living outside of the border according to what the Israelis believe. I mean, I'm not even going into the one-state, two-state discussions. The Israelis that believe in the two-state discussions, in the two-state solution, are giving money to people living outside their borders who are taking it away pretty much from their own children. So when we try to frame that, it just, most people don't think of it that way. So all of a sudden, things just don't make sense to them and they start questioning it, which is exactly what we want. We want people to start and question the legitimization of the occupation.
Thank you. Huda?
Thank you. I will move quickly to what do we need to do as a whole community. And excuse me if I am a little bit fast, I'll try
But you
to calm
react
down.
also on this?
Yes, this is the theory of change that we want to support, is to start to flip the table. You know, when they tell you the Palestinians are not partners in peace, ask them, where are the Israelis who are partners in peace? Does Israel appear as a partner in peace? And have that question. Let's redefine violence, let's redefine anti-Semitism, let's redefine peace, and let's unpack those narratives that we grow up thinking that the Arabs, the Palestinians are the enemy. And also tell the Israelis that they are Palestinians, they are born in Palestine. So one of the things that I would call on for everybody to think about as a community, because we're talking to you now and we're hoping that you guys are going to move to action. One of the things that I urge you to do is, yes, talk about the victimhood in Palestine. And when you talk about Palestine, think of all Palestinians, because that's an effort that we need to do, inclusive Palestinian identity, not fragmented. Talk about victimhood, but celebrate survivorhood. Gaza is under siege. Gaza is a big prison, but there are so many creative solutions inside Gaza to survive and to be resilient. Showcase that. Second, more women in politics, especially here, because you guys have the privilege to do that. So use that privilege, not just a reason for guilt, but also a reason for action. Bring more women to politics, but before you do that also, create a system that is, slow down, is acceptable of a new feminist, inclusive political leadership. So we don't want more Theresa Mays or Merkels or Thatchers. We want women like the New Zealand Prime Minister, or in some case, with no fantasization of Trudeau in Canada. Third, build strategic alliances. Anti-Semitism is a form of bigotry and discrimination, but it's not the only form. Create alliances between other forms of discrimination practiced here in Europe and defend them all, and push your representatives in the parliament. You're a democracy, guys. Use that as another privilege. Push your representatives to talk about it in one breath, and tell them we will stand by you if you are accused of anti-Semitism. Give them that kind of power, and make them think that next time when they want to run for office, that they will have to respond to that request from you. Last thing, responsibility. Yeah, no shaming, no blaming. Europe is amazing, but Europe also is moving towards the right wing more. How can we do? What can we do to help? If the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is one of the reasons why right-wing trending is high in Europe, bring us to speak to people. Bring an Israeli and Palestinian together in a mosque or a synagogue or a church in Europe, and let them know that this is not the case. You cannot be enemies over Israel and Palestine. You cannot polarize over Israel and Palestine. You have to unite for Israel and Palestine.
How many points do you have in your political program?
Two. Please remember that Yes, women pay the highest price of any conflict. We've seen that recent in 1995 when many women were raped in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But because they did not shut up, that became a law against, it was acknowledged as a crime against humanity and a war crime to rape women in a conflict zone. So raise your voice. You have causes all over the world that has injustice in it. Connect Palestine to these causes and march in the streets, ask your representatives to talk about it without being afraid.
Thank you.
These are my points.
Okay, that was your political program. Can we continue the discussion?
No, one thing I think it's important for you guys. What?
Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't even take time just like anybody else, but I have a loud voice.
You're on the
Do not use the Holocaust as a reason to remember and honor those who were killed during the Holocaust, and not a reason to kill more people for it. Thank you.
I'll try to come back to the question of social cleavages. Eitan, can you insist on that?
For me, when I hear Nisreen talk, I'm thinking of your, I would like to know your vision. Like, what would be, first I have to say something that I appreciate in your strategy, is that you, in a way, reclaim a strategy that I think we, let's say the we in the left, at least in Israel, I don't know if we ever had it, but if we had, we completely lost it. I mean, to work with people, really grassroots, and to try to do things in the name of socialism. Wow, talk about the name of socialism in Israel, it's like... I think it's very interesting, and I'm really interested to know about successes and how it changed in local struggles. But beyond that, I would love to know your vision. Like, how do you see, let's say that you win the struggle, and what would be, like, after you won it, and now you are in power, you're standing together, is forming the government of I don't know which state. No, but I'm seriously asking what is your vision, because I have a feeling you are working within Israel. So
yes, we are.
Yes, so
we are from the belief that.
So the vision is Israel in democracy and socialist Israeli, like Israel. What is?
If I'm looking ahead, we're nowhere near there, but let's look into the future. I'm answering your question. I am looking at a region. I'm intentionally not naming it. I'm not saying Israel, I'm not saying Palestine. The name is irrelevant. Because I'm looking at a region that lives with justice to all of its population, where people can have decent lives, where they are free, where the ultra-rich don't get the pie 90%, where the 1% doesn't get 90% of the budgets and of the money or the resources or anything like that. But that has to be for the entire region, not only within the so-called borders of Israel, but also including the West Bank and Gaza. And I dream of a future where our political leaders are accountable to us, to the people, of what they do. Because today, we don't have leaders anymore. I'm happy to say that Ayman Audi in the last election emerged in my eyes as a true leader, of saying things that he received bad criticism for, but It reflects the desire of the people, where we want a say in what happens to us. We want a say in this political game. We're done sitting on the sidelines. We want in. However, sadly, in terms of political solutions, I don't think that we have, to the conflict, I'm talking to the occupation, I don't think any of the current solutions satisfy that need. I think we need to think of a new, more creative solution, because we can talk about that later, but I think a more creative solution is needed. But that's my personal opinion. Again, standing together can have maybe other members can have other views, but that's what I think.
Raida, you want to add something on the question of social cleavages?
I just hope, I don't think I have questions, but I just hope it works out, because we feel like we're not equal when we go to the real life matters, and it's all dictated from above, from the government, from the law. Things must be changed there. So I don't know if a social movement alone without political thing can be moved, because what changes things is inside the parliament of Israel, but still we as Palestinians, I don't know how much I can rely on that. So I just have to say I wish you all the luck.
Thank you. I'll answer that because that's important. I actually agree. I don't think that work only from outside the parliament can bring any change. Parliament work is extremely important, but the question is, how do the parliament members decide what they do? What legislations they pass, what they fight for, what they fight against. Today, the person that is driving that is the money. Is Tshuva and their friends, is the people that have the ultra-rich that are closer to the politicians, and today they have almost daily conversations, and they tell them in their ear exactly what bill they need to push. But if we have a more politically active society where the people themselves uprise against whatever is happening now and demand from their politicians to do what is right for them. For example, to open a new hospital in the north instead of going on a new war, or to open a school in the south, in the Negev, to build maybe a house for the Bedouins in the unrecognized villages and actually have some sort of a plan. We're 1.6 million people. We have a lot of power in terms of number, we're just not using it. So the day that we start using our power and we start pushing the parliament members to make the correct decisions that benefit us, that is the day that we start the revolution. And that revolution has to begin.
So what lessons did you take from the last elections?
Okay. In terms of the electoral map, things are complicated. Things are not very good, I have to say. Two main things that I think everybody took, and me personally. One is that brave actions bring rewards. That what Ayman Audi did in the last election, actually stating that he is willing to work with Gantz, a person, as Jonathan said, has done horrific things to our people. He is responsible for the killing of thousands. No Palestinian is ever going to look at that man as anything but horrible. However, he said, I am willing to work with that man if you fight the problem of crime in the Palestinian society inside of Israel. We have the canceling of the Kamenetz law, which is a law that prohibits the building of new homes in in Palestinian villages inside of Israel. So Ayman demanded to cancel that law, canceling the nation-state law, and working and starting peace talks and starting to progress towards the end of the occupation. If those four things happen, we're playing ball. We're willing to play. We're in the game. That is revolutionary in terms of anything that a Palestinian citizen of Israel has ever done, and it brought rewards. It brought the joint list 13 seats. People that usually didn't vote went out and voted. And it brought this new hope of a new leader that we didn't have for a long time. So the first thing is bravery brings rewards. The other thing is that no tyrant is unbeatable. Netanyahu was viewed as the king of Israel for the last 20 years. Guess what? He lost. He lost. He cannot make a government. So this person that was supposed to be this devil that we can't beat, that is there to stay until the day he dies, lost his seat. He's no longer there. So no tyrant is unbeatable, and everybody can be beat. The only question is, are we using the correct strategy or not?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Eitan, your way of doing things is completely different. You are using art, you're using research to open up minds. Please tell us a bit about your approach.
But I need Martin give me something so I can show. Yeah, so maybe I will start before, but before this, I will just say a word of introduction of myself before I show you some photos. I found, because it was not mentioned here, I founded in 2001 an organization in Israel named Zachorot. I know that many of you know about it. Zachorot means in Hebrew remembering, and we work within the Israeli society to raise awareness to the Nakba, the displacements of most of the Palestinians from their homes in 1948 and the preventing of their return home, and the destruction of most of the Palestinian localities in order to establish a Jewish state. And this work, I have to say, I think was very successful in the sense of opening the discourse about the Nakba in Israel. When I started the work in 2001, and I remember I Googled the word Nakba in Hebrew, there was nothing, almost no results. Today, if you Google Nakba in Hebrew, you would find tens of thousands of results. And so our work, together with other organizations' work, and with the great help of the government to pass the Nakba law in 2011, and try to prevent any commemoration of the Nakba or any studying about the Nakba or talking about the Nakba. The government, by that, raised a lot of awareness to this issue. And now in Israel, this is an issue that is much more known and discussed. And still, we have a long way to go, mainly on the issue of the right of return, that is not in discussion at all in Israel. And I'm completely sure that if the right of return for the Palestinian refugees is an essential condition for any possibility of living together in peace in that country. Now, I was at Zachorot until 2015, and then I left and I established together with my partner, Eleonore Merza Bronstein, an organization named Decolonizer, where we try to look at the situation as a settler colonial regime. We don't see it as a conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. We see it as a colonial movement that occupied and settled in historic Palestine since 100 and something years ago, and displaced the Palestinians most of the Palestinians from their homes in order to establish a state only for Jews. Only Jews can be citizens with full rights in Israel, and this is a fundament of the Israeli regime. Now, together we wrote this book in Hebrew, Nakba Be'ivrit, Nakba in Hebrew, and we translated it to French. These all efforts to bring the Nakba to the Israelis, it's something that we continue to do until today, but we are looking also at other aspects of the colonial situation, like, for example, the occupation of the Golan Heights in 1967 and other aspects of the colonial reality. What I want to show you mainly today is to look at one last project that I just finished a few weeks ago in the south of Israel today, very close to Gaza Strip. There is a village named El Ma'in. Maybe some of you know, rather known Palestinian person, researcher named Salman Abu Sita. He was born in that village, and he was displaced from El Ma'in when he was 11 years old. And this is the last house remained of that village, El Ma'in, and it's in the land between two kibbutzim, Nir Oz and Nirim, and the kibbutz Nir Oz, the Israeli kibbutz, turned the last house of El Ma'in that you are seeing here to an art gallery. So the last house of this Palestinian village turned to an art gallery, and I came 3 years ago to the director of this art gallery in Israeli from Nir Oz and suggested him to bring the story of El Ma'in into his art gallery and to exhibit it there, and he was very open and happy for this. Later he was less happy with where he took the direction, but because it's the first time that his art gallery was in the newspapers, in the media, it raised quite a scandal, but he was also happy that finally someone writes about it. So by this project, we try to do two main things, which are very important for us, decolonizer. One is to bring back the story of El Ma'in to the settlers that are living on the lands of those villages. When I'm saying settlers, I'm including myself as a settler. I'm a settler in Tel Aviv, and there are settlers in Nir Oz or Nirim. In principle, I don't see a big difference between me as a settler and settlers in Hebron, Jewish settlers in Hebron or Ariel or other places in the West Bank. We are basically settlers that we should decolonize from within, and with your help, maybe decolonize this regime from outside. And what we try to do so is to bring the story of El Ma'in back to the place where he is in this today art gallery, and also by this project to transcend the borders or to challenge the colonial borders set by the Israelis, mainly between Israel and Gaza, as you heard, of course, and you know, that it's so close, like Gaza is hermetically closed, and also the Israelis are very far away from Gaza, even though they are only 3 kilometers from this art gallery. In the opening event in this what's called the White House Gallery, this is the name of the gallery. So this is the opening event, and the ones that you see here are people from those kibbutzim in the area. It's 4 kibbutzim are on the land of El Ma'in, and it was the first time that they were exposed to the story of El Ma'in. I didn't find even one of all the visitors in the exhibition that was there for 2 weeks, even one that knew something about the situation, why the people from El Ma'in left the place. It was also surprising for me. No one of them knew anything about this. It was the first time they were exposed to the story of the Palestinians living in the land before them. One of the things that we did, like many other occasions, we post a sign with the person that owned the house, the Palestinian person that built this house. It was interesting that some kibbutz people still insist, even though they saw this information, because we connected the son of this person that built this house, and even the information they saw in the exhibit, they still insist and argue that the British built those houses. The British built the houses and the wells around, and it's not the Palestinians. The Palestinians didn't know to build houses. This they said. This is a part of the exhibition. As part of the project, I built a kite, and I tried to fly it over the border to Gaza Strip, to the other side. And what you see, the flight itself is built of the aerial photo of El Ma'in from 1945. So I tried to bring them the information of the aerial photo of this village to the other side, to the refugees that are only 8 kilometers away in Khan Yunis. Again, a detail that no one from the kibbutzim there knew where are the refugees from that place. Of course, I failed to fly the kite because the wind is always coming from the west to our side, to the east. But it was for the video that I did, which is the main piece for the exhibition, which I will not show it to you today. And the kite, in fact, was, this is the aerial photo. So it's a zoom into this aerial photo from 1945. You see the houses of the Palestinian village. And they were marked in Gaza by the grandson of that house, the Palestinian that built the house. We located him in Gaza through friends in Gaza, in Khan Yunis, and in his home. They met for hours, and they wrote by pen all the houses, including what is their gallery today. And this aerial photo returned to the gallery as one of the items of the gallery of the exhibit. It's exposed there on the left side. You see behind the people there. So this is a little bit the main video of the exhibit. This is the meeting of the Musab Bashir, my friend here on the left. This one, that is a Palestinian from Deir al-Balach, but he's a journalist, and he met Abu Ala, that he is the grandson of the person, Abu Breisha, the person that built the art gallery. So they worked for hours to restore the story of El Ma'in, or the houses, and in their meeting, Abu Ala took them to see the house, their house of El Ma'in. I'm finishing. The house of El Ma'in, the land of El Ma'in on the other side of the border. Now, all these are photos from in the exhibit, and they are showing the attempt to try to cross the border in different ways, bring the materials into the exhibit in order to see the Gaza Strip, which is just next there. This is a photo I took from the art gallery itself at night. You see the house, the lights of Huda. Huda, it's a town just in Gaza Strip, 3 kilometers from this today art gallery, and it's very, very far away and disconnected completely from the Israelis that are living there. We have no connection with the people there. One thing that I want to show, this is a nice image, because this person name is Solo, is one of the first person in Nirim, in Kibbutz Nirim, and he argued before the exhibit that there was no really a Palestinian village in this place, and this exhibition is politically biased, but he was the first visitor at the exhibit. He came, and he's watching at the refugee from Khan Yunis in the photo, the exhibit. We asked the visitors in the exhibit to write, instead of write comment to the exhibition, we asked them to write a message to the refugees from Al Ma'in. And I was not sure if someone would write anything, but we were very happy to have more than 20 comments, written text from people from those kibbutzim. And one of them I translated here from Efrat Katz from Nir Oz, that she said, what I seen here today was very moving and painful. In spite of me living here for more than 35 years, I feel the need and the hope to return to the land and revive it with the emotions of the past, revive it with the culture and habits of yours, the residents. A land is not a brick, a land is a value, it is roots, it is love to a place. There is no room for expulsion, my heart is with you. And she signed with her name, full name, and we told them that we are going to deliver those messages to expose them to people in the world, and also to deliver them to the refugees from El Ma'in. So what we show by this project is that when we bring the stories to the Israelis in a direct way, in an honest way, I think, at least some of them are open to learn and to learn something new, even revolutionary for them, because they never heard the story of the people living on that place before them. I want just a final comment on the title that was chosen for my presentation is Acknowledging the Other. And for me, I want to say something about it. For me, this learning the history of El Ma'in, in fact, it's not only about acknowledging the other. For me, the story of El Ma'in is my own history as well. If I want to live in this land, not as a colonizer, not as an occupier, I have to learn the history of the place. The history of El Ma'in should be part of my own history. If I'm not only a colonizer from Europe that come to replace the people there, but I want to live with them, this is also my history. And part of the history, unfortunately, is also the displacement of these people that we did and we continue to do until today. So for me, it's to acknowledging the other. In fact, it's knowing myself and knowing my history. This Efrat, I think she knows herself through the story that she learned about El Ma'in. So I think one of the main things that this Israeli colonial regime did and continue doing is, in fact, constructing the other as an enemy, in kind of inventing the other as an other, mainly as an other, threatening other, an enemy. And I think we have to deconstruct this notion by different ways, and this is one option of a project to do it. Thank you.
Projects like this try to raise awareness. Is that not should that not media do? Is that not one of do private persons do that? Is that not something what the media should do? How is the media scenery in Israel?
Yeah, about the media I can tell something interesting, again, if I may. One thing that I learned in these years that, and I have to say that on this I deeply disagree with most of my colleagues and friends, very good friends in the left in Israel, also the non-Zionist friends, that they usually boycott the Israeli media. And not only that I don't boycott the Israeli media, I try to find ways to publish in right-wing media. I found many times, in a way, unfortunately, I have to say, Gideon, I hope he doesn't hear this, that, for example, in Haaretz, it's more difficult to get, let's say, an interesting coverage for some of those projects. Sometimes they try to be, I think, too sophisticated and too complicated or critical because they're seen as lefty. And in the right-wing media, I found sometimes openness to these ideas because they try to bring these kind of stories as kind of the enemy. They bring the enemy and they give us the floor. And in fact, in this case, it worked amazingly, even though the journalist did a little manipulation, but I can share it with you, and he did it, and it raised a huge thing there. I wrote in the press release that I published that this project is with the participation of the refugees from the place, which is, you saw, they participated, they wrote, they worked with us, they knew the project, and they were part of it. So this guy, right-wing from Makor Rishon newspaper, he called to those old people from Nirim kibbutz, the kibbutzim of Nirim, like this solo that you saw in the photo. He told him, you know, there's going to be an exhibit in your place, in your home, with the refugees, with the refugees from El Ma'in, and they are going to come. They are going to participate. They are coming back to the place. I say, what? They say, they are coming back? What? How? There were no Palestinians here. This is BDS project. And they go crazy. And it raised to a very high, for example, the head of the regional council, he was sure that Salman Abu Sita himself is going to come with his story, to deliver his story to El Ma'in, and he got crazy. He called the director of the art gallery. He told him that he's going to call the foreign ministry to prevent Salman Abu Sita from entering to tell his story. Now, he talked about terror, like it's kind of terror, I don't know what. But for me, it's very interesting that he thinks to prevent a Palestinian to come because he comes with his story back. And it's really crazy. And this raised a scandal, and then the other newspapers took this. But I don't think the media in Israel do enough on these issues. Sometimes they do, and sometimes there are great articles on those issues. I remember Gideon was the first time to write about when we published, we issued an app called iNakba. We have an app today that you can surf and see all the places in the country that were destroyed, and you can find them, and Gideon follow this app and describe how you can navigate now and find the places, and it's great. So sometimes there are good work done, but unfortunately not enough. Yeah.
Caught us by surprise.
Is art, is research, is that a way of debloaking, of opening up the discourse, the discussion?
Yes, I think that we've seen in history many times that the arts open people's minds and they make us question what we think we know. And sometimes what we know is not really what happened, and it makes us rethink. What I especially loved about this project is the fact that it engaged the local community. It wasn't just this art gallery that was in the middle in this town that the people living there didn't have anything to do with that. No, it engaged them, it got them thinking, talking, expressing their feelings on paper. I'm sure that there were negative comments, there always are. But I'm also sure that the positive were much more fulfilling and stronger emotionally than the negative. What I'm trying to think now is how we can take this wonderful experience and maybe duplicate it, maybe try it again in other places, because as we all know, everywhere across Israel there are people that used to live in houses that are no longer there, empty houses that used to belong to citizens, or even houses that today, like when I talk to my own grandmother, and we walk around the city, and she says, okay, this house used to belong to this and this family, and they used to be here, and they left and the stories are endless, and we need to bring them to the people. Because one thing Eitan's saying, which is very true, the right-wing government is afraid of the stories, because it brings humanity to what they're trying to humanitize. So, wonderful project, I really love that.
Well, it's the role of education that you re-educate people about and unpack the narratives they have, and you introduce them to realities, and it could be shocking, and then action would come after.
Again, education is an endless process. So it can start from infancy until God's will. It's a very important project. It brings awareness for both sides. Actually, through these projects like these, the awareness is coming to both sides, to those who had took over the place, and to those who left the place, because it also gives them a stage to teach their coming generations about it, and to fulfill his hope about it. The man sitting there with writing or looking, navigating which piece of land or which house belonged to which family. And he was doing that, he was fully into that. That was great. That reminds me, of the work of Zukhrot that you used to do. And that's fascinating.
Thank you. Huda, can you give us a short presentation of the importance of women action and the work of Women Wage Peace?
So I'm here on two different capacities. One is that I am running a network of 110 organizations, and we are doing the effort to bring these organizations together, to work together and coordinate, and then do advocacy for them in Europe and the United States to make them visible and get them resources. That's the Alliance for Middle East Peace. The second capacity is that in 2014, after the aggression against Gaza, a group of good-willing women from Israel came to me asking for consultation about a new organization that they want to open. My question was for them is if this is going to be another organization that will tokenize the Palestinians. You will have someone by your side as your partner, and you will extend a hand to the Palestinians because they are the victims, and you will speak on their behalf. And they said, probably this is what we will do. And I said, thank you. The Palestinians don't need more of these organizations. The Palestinians need to figure what the hell is happening in the Israeli society and why we are paying the price of the fact that the Israeli society is so divided, so traumatized, so militarized, so extreme. And let's discuss how we can do that. And if the goddess, God that I refer to as a she, had the courage to have a conversation with the Satan in the Quran, in the first surah in the Quran, then women sure has the same courage. And they should invite everybody to that conversation. And that was the theory of change. In that theory of change, we also changed the stereotype against the fact that most of the organizations are created, run, and funded by Jewish organizations. We created an entity of Palestinian women who consulted with that movement, which is going to be very bad for them if the rest of the Jewish people know that Palestinians actually consulted, so we keep that under the radar. We got them funding. We opened doors to them in Europe and in the United States to be known. They were featured all over the world before Israel even acknowledged their existence. It started with 40 women, and now it's 45,000 women. It's a movement, it's not an organization, and it's structured in terms of how they run it. It's a committee of 100 women and steering committee and 55 area-focused committees. The last thing that I want to say about Women Wage Peace is that it's entirely an Israeli organization, and it promotes dialogue inside the Israeli society, and it doesn't claim that the Palestinians have to have the same thing, and it doesn't see equality as just 20 people or 20 Palestinians and 20 Israelis in one room doing a dialogue. It's more about giving back to your own society, responding to needs in your society, and having courageous dialogue, honest dialogue on your Shabbat dinner inside Israel. Thank you.
Can you give us an example of your actions, how this works out?
So again, in the two capacities, with Women Wage Peace, we've done 3 different marches where we had Palestinians and Israeli women, Palestinian and Israeli women marching together. But to me, the most important part is that when we talk about Women Wage Peace, it's not just Jewish organization. It has Palestinian women who are Christians and Muslims, and it has also other minorities within it, marginalized groups inside Israel, in the pockets of the Israeli society that no one, sometimes some of my lefty friends wouldn't even go and visit, like the Mizrahi Jewish concentrated communities that vote right-wing all the time, but they receive no services. So we did a lot of training for these women to claim their voice as political activists. We created a document that defines what do we mean by feminist inclusive political activism. It's available with another organizations that we shared it with Women Wage Peace. We also, or I, as in my capacity as the regional director of the Alliance for Middle East Peace, responded to a need coming from women who have lost their children to the conflict, both Palestinian and Israeli. They wanted to be politically active, and we responded to the need. We didn't impose the need on them. We responded to the need because they felt that they have a legitimate reason to have their voices heard on the political level. Finally, in order to bridge the gap between what's happening on the grassroots level and on the political level, with the alliance, with all the 100 organizations together, we do a lot of debriefing of, for all kind of international entities, including the UN. So this is one part of what we do.
Thank you. We had Raida had to go. Thank you for being with us. She has to take a flight because she has to work tomorrow as a teacher.
Bye, Raida.